Welcome to RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network with your hostess, Jen Josie. Join like-minded real estate investors and accelerate your business towards greatness. You will hear step-by-step strategies for success, interviews with real estate rock stars, and we will dig deep into past projects where we bear it all, including the good, the bad, and some just plain ugly. So get excited. Here's the bestower of badassery herself, the real Jen Josie. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi, and welcome back. I'm Jen Josie, creator of RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Whoop, whoop. On today's episode, we have a guest that will be sharing one of their past projects. We will let you decide if it was good or bad or just plain ugly. But before we begin, here's today's badassery bestowment, my little badass gift to you. Today's topic is open houses. Now, if you think an open house is going to bring you buyers, I hate to break it to you, but that's a big, hairy no. The actual percentage of home buyers purchasing a home from an open house is only 2 to 3%. What open houses do bring are nosy neighbors, new investors not working with realtors, not to mention the security risk. There are vandals out there that go through open houses to scan for items they can come back later to steal. I just don't like open houses. Today's buyer is a lot savvier and spend time on the internet researching the home before they consider buying it. If they are truly interested, they will contact an agent to schedule a showing. Now, I will tell you what I do like. As an investor, you should host a pick your neighbor open house and only invite the neighbors. Have a taco truck, serve some food, and make it a community event. These neighbors have been putting up with all that banging and dumpster mess for a couple of months, so it's a great way to thank them and build your business. They have been watching from afar all the finishing touches go in. Why not pick a day for them to all take a tour? You're not going to find a buyer, but if you did a great rehab, you know they will be telling all their friends. Now, on to today's episode of the Real Estate Investor Growth Network podcast. We have with us Jeff Fallon. Jeff is a real estate investor and an accomplished speaker. He's a high-energy mentor that always puts his students' goals first. He's completed over 7,500 coaching calls throughout the U.S., Canada, and 20 other countries. I've had the pleasure of working with him as a coach for Tariq El Musa's homeschooled program. He is the utmost professional and genuinely an awesome guy. So welcome to the show, Jeff Fallon.
Hey, Jen, thank you so much for being here.
There's that high energy.
I'm so happy to be here.
There's that high energy. I love it.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. And again, I'm excited to share and talk and do this podcast with you. And again, thanks for the invitation.
Absolutely. And I know you're from Chicago, but you currently are in Tijuana. Is that true?
Well, I migrated to San Diego, California from Chicago 11 years ago. And yes, I'm in Tijuana in an office right now. And I've got offices in both locations and also some business back in Chicago and even doing some rehabs in Boston. So I'm a little all over the place as far as being an entrepreneur and an investor. So yes, is the answer to your question.
So we have never met in person, but I feel like I know you very well. I get to hang with you on coaching calls once a week, and you are just so amazing. But I don't know your background story. How'd you get involved with real estate?
Yeah, great question. And you know what? I was just one of these young guys that literally right after high school, 1 week. So, a lot of people just graduated a month ago. And I had an uncle that worked in a commercial printing, graphic arts, advertising type of company and got me in the door. Really, that job that a lot of college graduates would hope to get after getting their degree. I got a week after graduating high school. And, it was an hour commute. I did that for 3 years straight, full time, working second shift, third shift, whatever it took to kind of move my way up through the corporate ladder. And I got that work ethic by being raised by a single mom. Ever since like 9, 10 years old, she's a nurse, and she'd work these 10, 12, and even 16-hour double shifts.
Goodness.
And I thought, well, that's what I'm supposed to do. And, if she could do it, I could do it. And I just wanted to make money. And so, but after that, I was realizing a lot of my friends were about a year from graduating college. And I thought, whoa, am I being left behind? Should I go get a degree? So I actually quit that full-time job and went back to school to get a business degree, more so in finance and financial planning is what spoke to me. I thought, well, when I'm wealthy, I want to manage my own wealth without paying crazy fees. And, I get to help others too. What a bonus career. And about a year into those studies, I discovered real estate. And I was one of those guys up late watching late night TV, and I seen an infomercial for no money down. And I bought that system, literally books and tapes. And here's the difference, Mac.
Books and what?
Books and tapes and CDs. Yeah, I'm a little... Yeah, that's so funny. Yeah, I started 25 years ago. If you do the math, I was 24 years old when I bought the first house. So there you go. That's funny. Anyways, to make a long story short, I had to go back to work. I did not finish. I did not get the college degree because I had to go back and pay the bills, on my own place. And the bottom line is I listened to those audio CDs to and from my job, an hour commute. So I'm pouring in a lot of real estate training, sales training, personal development. And I became a student of everything I could get my hands on. And again, turned my downtime into uptime with the car, what I called the university on wheels. But here's the difference maker. I put it into high level action. Anytime I was off work and it was nights and weekends, again, that work ethic, I got to give full credit to my mom. She worked 50 years as a nurse, loved giving back. And I think that's the same reason why I turned into a coach later on in the career, because it's a give back for me. I always searched out for great mentors, and I've been to a lot of workshops and seminars and, boot camps, all that good stuff. But I'm one to really put it into high level action and make it happen. So yeah, I just kind of started out flying by the seat of my pants, bought the first property at 24. Next one was a 2-flat. For sale by owner. We all hear you got to call those for sale by owners. It worked out. They were retired from Chicago to Texas. So I lease optioned out the first one. And before you knew it, I'm a landlord with 2 tenants flying by the seat of my pants. And I was like, all right, here we go. And I just kept going, buying properties 2 or 3 a year. And I would buy them, fix them up, and then rent them out. So I was managing my own properties for about 12 years as I worked a corporate career in downtown Chicago for advertising agencies. So that's a little bit of background about me.
That is awesome. And I love how you mention putting action behind your education, because there are so many people I know who pay thousands and thousands of dollars for their education, and they just are stuck in that analysis paralysis and don't put action behind it. And so I'm so glad you mentioned that, because that's like anyone can go out and pay all this money for this education, but if you don't have the action to support it, it's never going to happen. So I'm so glad you said that. And also, I know you are an accomplished speaker. So what are some of the topics you speak on? Is it just real estate or anything else?
No, yeah, great question. Jen, through the years of just, corporate background and commercial advertising and, even commercial printing and get into real estate and then entrepreneurship. I've had a couple other businesses besides real estate.
A yoga studio. Yoga studio.
Yeah, I'm into health and wellness. As we all learned through COVID, health is your wealth. And I'm a fitness guy. I'm a sports guy. So I've always been very, very active. Martial arts training. And so, yeah, I had a yoga studio and another nutritional business. And yeah, it's great. So all the things I speak on is just that, from literally startup, from goal setting, time management, sales, marketing, branding, real estate. And of course, the list goes on to hiring and firing. And oh man, it's just a lot of topics that are wrapped around business growth principles. And so speaking, yeah, I do a speech on, a keynote, how to overcome fear. It seemed to be the one common denominator of all the coaching calls or people that have had challenges, struggles, or let's just be real, excuses on why something's not happening. It was rooted in fear.
Yep.
And so I addressed the elephant in the room and created a presentation, I think about 8-9 years ago. And it just started out on a weekend workshop, and it's evolved and evolved and evolved to where now, corporate companies hire me in to deliver that type of speech to either their sales team or whatever, where it may be applicable. And I love giving it because, man, it's transformational. And it's just a lot of principles that I've learned over 20, 25 years of personal development and being around real estate and entrepreneurship, to where I've summarized the top 5 things on how to overcome fear. So, I love to speak on it, gets passionate, and it comes from a lot of personal experience, too.
Well, I'd love to have you back on just to do a full episode on that. I want to hear about these top 5 things that can help me get over fear. So I love that. But we have you on the show today to talk about one of your past projects. And I can't wait to hear about this, because before we hit record, he showed me one picture of the inside of this house, which listeners, you won't be able to see, but oh boy. So let's start about this property. Give me a little description on the property. How many bedrooms, how many baths, when was it built, all that fun stuff.
Okay, great. Yeah, Jen, when I did a joint venture on this project, and I met this gentleman who was more of the private money lender, so the silent partner, if you will, and I became a general contractor, at least certified, back in 2001. And so I was going to be the on-site construction manager, and, we were a joint venture going to split 50-50. And so this property, and by the way, we met at a local REIA meeting. So go to your meetings. I don't think I missed a REIA meeting for 7 years straight when I first started out. All right. So very important to go network, especially as we get back out of, COVID and the world's opening up. A lot of people are excited to get out there and really network versus just Zoom or over the phone and texting. The bottom line is this. We found a property that was abandoned. And so it was left because a young couple was there. And this is in Chicagoland, where I'm born and raised. And so I'm still investing over there. And I say that because a young couple, they got married, and then they had a big fight, and she left the property, and he was there in this beautiful 4-bedroom, 2-story house, sitting on like 2 acres plus, backed up to a retention pond that never filled with water. So it was just a great location in the #1 school district in a south suburb of Chicago. And so it had all these great buying points on it. And he, was like, well, why am I going to stay in this big house by myself? So he left too. And what happened was the pipes in the upstairs jacuzzi tub master bathroom had froze in the month of December, and it bursted. And this water leaked down below in the kitchen, and then 3 steps down in the sunken living room, and then it kept on filling up in the downstairs finished basement. And how anyone even discovered this was happening is water was coming out the front door of the property. And the picture I showed you where I'm taking like a curb shot across the street, the neighbors across the street called the fire department because they saw water coming out the front door. And so sure enough, they got there, they turned the water off. And of course, it was freezing cold during that time. So it caused major water damage is the bottom line. And a partner and I got this property at a very good, discounted price because it scared a lot of people away from making offers because of the visual. And I remember going to a workshop or a seminar where all I heard was mold is gold.
I knew you were going to say that. I heard that. Mold is gold. Yes.
Yeah, well, let me tell you, Jen, I became a mold remediation expert by default because I'll tell you when, again, this is only like my 3rd or 4th rehab at the time. And it was one of those rehabs where it's just like, oh, yeah, no problem. We're going to go in there and demo all this. I mean, the drywall, I want you guys to picture, literally, if you took 3 or 4 like spray paint artists and put them in there for an hour with black spray paint, and just go crazy on multiple drywall, walls in the basement, the sunken living room. So we knew we were going to do major gut rehab, right?
Right.
And the thing is, I had crews. I like I said, I was already rolling the business. I started a small construction company to keep my rehab work in-house per se. And so I had my #1 crew. And of course, back in those days, this is in the year like 2003, 2004. And I just thought this would be a good demonstration project for your audience to be aware of as we go out seeking these type of properties, discounts in this hot market we're currently in 2021. we're trying to get our hands on anything that's available. And so fire damage house, mold, water damage, all those kind of things, I'm ready. I'm ready to take them on because it scares away these are the amateurs per se,
So how did you find it? You said you got a very discounted rate. Was it a short sale? Was it the bank? I mean, were you buying it from that couple? Like, what was up with that?
Yeah, good question. Well, my private money lender / silent investor, he got the lead on it. I think it was a pocket listing before they were going to try and list it as a abandoned vacant property, that type of thing. So yeah, we made the move on it, made the offer, got it secured, and we were both stand to make total of 80,000, 40,000 each as far as the profit goes. Like, okay, great. We're going to get in there, like I said, demo it, rehab it, and bring it back up to market because it was in a great location, awesome school district, and a very booming town as far as new development, construction. The house is only 10 years old when we bought it.
Wow.
So here's the thing. I put in my number one crew to just go demo it. And of course, I bought those extra awesome, face masks with the filtered things on it, not just the little white things that we've all been seeing everyone wearing with COVID. I had to go, a couple notches up because I didn't want anyone in my crew getting sick, and nor would we want any new buyer coming in and having any mold on that type of property. Of course, we got to pass inspections, but again, we knew a family of 3.2 kids was going to come in there and buy it with a great school.
Right.
So we didn't want anything to kind of come up with a lawsuit afterwards type of stuff. So we knew we had to do it right. And no problem there. Okay, great. But so we start tearing up all these walls and filling up the dumpster, getting that mold out, and the mold even secreted into the frame, the framing, the studs. So all that mold, black mold, was on studs. We had to spray. We had to do all of that stuff. But we were doing it on our own. And what happened was the learning lesson for not only me, but even your listeners, is we created more mold spores. We didn't quarantine, put up enough plastic correctly in that whole lower level. We didn't block off the whole upper level bedroom. And so, yeah, we did more damage than good, which now we had to go really invest in the mold remediation company, which was not really in our scope of work originally because we were going to try and do it on the cheap. So that's the whole moral of the story, is when you do get your bids and you're getting your estimates from your construction crews, do what you got to do the job right. Because here as a young rehabber, I've done it wrong. And I've had to pay for something 2 or even 3 times because I went and took the lowest bid out there or was going to do it ourselves with an unprofessional crew in that specific category, whether it's, again, fire damage or mold, water damage, etc. And that's why I want to, bring up this property or this project to the audience, because it's for awareness. When you guys are out there walking properties and before you're making offers, it's to get your ducks in a row and follow the systems that your trainings are suggesting you follow and stick to those systems. Because I was a little ego-driven when I was in my 20s and just thinking about that profit already and where I was going to go vacation at the time, So,
well, let me stop you. Let me stop you for a second. Let's talk some numbers here. So when you found the property, do you remember what you paid for it, what your estimated ARV was at the time, what your estimated repairs were? Do you have any of those numbers? I know it's been a while since this project. I was like, I want to hear something about a bad project. So I'm glad you're bringing this one up. Do you have any of those numbers? You remember that?
I do. I remember we sold this thing right around for $350,000, which now, living in California, I can't even buy a 600 square foot garage. It's so funny to hear the number differences back from 2003, 4 range. But anyways, again, I've described the location, very desirable, beautiful 4-bedroom, tri-level type home. And, garage, all the things that you would want to really raise a family in, in a great house, in a great location. And I just remember, again, the $80,000 spread for profit, $40,000 split. Well, what happened was, just to finish that story, we had to invest in, and again, I found them at the RIA meeting, the mold remediation company. To do that type of work properly and to pass inspection is critical. And you get what you pay for. They had to come in with a white hazmat suit.
Wow.
And I couldn't go to the property for a full week, all that stuff. But here was the kicker, to where my partner and I, we broke to where we got literally a $5,000 profit. We did not make $40,000 each. And here was the secret kicker. The code was rewritten in that township, even though the home was only 10 years old. They said in this code, which we didn't know buying it. Again, that's why it's good to be at your Chamber of Commerce meetings, or again, know the bylaws of the townships that you're investing in, because they said anytime you pull a piece of drywall down, a full wall, and you expose what's called BX, or flexible electrical,
right,
you've got to replace it with a conduit, the straight piping. And we did not forecast the electrician or materials in that scope of work. And at $90 an hour, and more than just light fixtures and outlets, what was the only original, man, that put us over budget between the hazmat crew and the electrician. And so that's why our budget went down. And of course, the timeline, we held on to that a little bit longer, because by the time we finished with the delays that I caused by my ignorance and not following a system, we went into the winter months, which is very challenging to sell a property through Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Right.
So we finally got that thing off the books come February/March. I remember it was the end of February. And thank God for that. A realtor did really, really great as far as getting it off the books. But yeah, that was a gigantic learning lesson early in my investing career. And that made me realize how important systems was, and training and coaching. And I've invested in all of those three to really help catapult me to the next level, and learn what not to do is, I guess, the moral of that story.
Well, that was a perfect project, and I'm glad you went back in time to share that one, because it was Sean Tiberio. Is that how you say his last name? He's the one who used to say, mold is gold. So we'll walk into projects, and I'll be with some newbies, and they're like, there's mold. And I'm like, yep, we should definitely buy it. And they're like, oh my goodness. So what a great property to share with us. That was awesome. So you made about $5,000 each, or you split the $5,000?
Yeah, $5,000 each, which I'll tell you what, Jen, just to wrap that up, I was happy to make a profit after that project. I was probably going gray hair at 25, 26 years old, with like, oh my God, so many curveballs, so many hidden surprises, so many delays. And by the end of it, adding it all up, you would think you would lose money. But thank God we bought it right. And again, that's coming back to systems. And I really teach and train a lot of my clients and students that you've got to be disciplined on the buying side. I was taught that you always make money on how you buy.
Yep.
You get paid when you sell. And so that was a big run. Just thank God we had enough cushion in there for those extra charges with taking on a home. But that's what scared a lot of people away. And, you know, again, good learning lesson. And we'll wrap it up in that for sure.
Well, that's huge. And thank you for sharing that. So since you've completed that project, have you changed how you do other projects in the future or after that?
Well, absolutely. You know, I was a buy, renovate, and then rent type of person and manage properties. And so I've been through a lot of tenant situations, turnovers, and, you know, that's great experience out in the field. And so that's allowed me to graduate to become what's now, I stay active as a private money lender. So no more toilets, termites, or tenants that I deal with on a personal, headache basis. But I still apply the same systems as a private money lender as if I'm buying it as an investor. I put them through the quote unquote the ringer and the whole process of from A to Z as far as what's the scope of work, what's the timeline, what's the turnaround, what's their experience. Usually I partner with investors that have had at least 5 years of successful projects or more, because let's face it, I've got 2 businesses myself. I also, like you said earlier in the intro, I partner up with Team Tarek, as I call it, and a lot of the coaching clients there with an awesome program. And I don't have the time or the luxury to do what I call adult babysitting out in the field. Been there, done that. And so I want to make sure that they're really following the systems and know how to hit the repeat button, where we're not getting emotionally involved with certain, projects. And it's a business to me. So I treat it like a business. And so we have check-ins, we have milestones. I usually, if it's local, I do a lot of it in San Diego also. And I'll go visit the project on the front end, usually at the middle stage. And then on the finishing stage, once we've staged the property, I'm going to go there and walk and talk with a video and promote it on my social media and share out the good news when the property is ready to sell. And boom, we usually sell that thing even before this hot market within 30 to 45 days. There's no doubt about it.
Love it. Love it. And so one final question. I want to hear about JVs. I am a little afraid to get into the JV movement here, and I just don't like giving that trust away. So have you ever had a bad JV situation? Or maybe you can talk to the listeners about, because it sounds like you did the rehab on this one project, but you had someone do the financing, and a lot of people starting out don't have that financing. So what's a good way to go about a JV? How do you protect yourself in a JV? Touch a little bit on that before we move on to the second half of the podcast.
Yeah, great question, Jen. Again, I'll bring up that project because I found out, I kind of set it up that my partner was a silent partner in that mold home, where in the front end, he said he was going to do a lot more than just be a silent partner and actually come to the rehab, help the rehab, and it ended up me being flying solo there in all, like sincere honesty. And I was like, oh my gosh, wow, don't always believe what people say they're going to do. Let's get a commitment on paper. So I remember always learning that documentation is king. I remember even having, through some property management to where, I had to take a tenant to court one time. And they were even Section 8, and they all only had to pay me $45 a month, and yet the state was giving me $1,000. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I remember going to that property one weekend to fix some doors or paint a porch or something. And they had more groceries on their countertop than I did. And I'm like, wait, you can't pay me $40 a month, but you're eating better than me? Something's upside down here. So that's what triggered me to take them to court. And I remember going to a landlord boot camp where the guy teaching the course had over 700 doors, and I was just filling single digit, 7 or 8 of them, and having some tenant issues. And I remember going up to him the first day of a 3-day workshop right before the lunch break and told him my situation. He goes, my friend, you need to take them to court. Court is your best friend as a landlord, and as long as you got your paperwork and documentation, go to court. And same thing with contractors. And I was a little intimidated by court because of the fees and lawyers, and I didn't know how it worked. But as soon as I got the green light from an expert that was saying court was your best friend, boom, I went back home, applied those principles, and sure enough, got my rent rolls back to where they should have been. And same thing with contractors. So to answer your question, documentation, make sure you sign agreements. It's just not these handshake deals. And again, I don't care if you're best buddies from college, because once money gets involved and a lot of pointing fingers go the opposite ways of oh, I thought you were going to do this and you said you're going to do it. Get it in writing is the bottom line. That's just from personal experience, what I've learned over the years. Protect yourself. It's called CYA, cover your asset.
Very well said, Jeff. Thank you. So the second half of the podcast is what makes you a badass. And Jeff, for the little time that I've gotten to know you, you truly are a badass. You're a great, super nice guy, but deep down, you're a badass. So I use the acronym BADASS, and the first letter B is book. What is a book that's made a huge difference in your life?
I just got a book for Christmas. So it was 6 months ago, and I've been reading it, and I'm not a great reader. I listen to more podcasts and some YouTubes now with today's modern technology, and I'll throw it up when I do get a chance. It's usually from 9 to 10 o'clock at night as I, decompress and kind of unwind and, still feed the brain with mentors and some great high-level trainers that are out there. And so, but back to a book, I got a hardcover book, and it's called Talking to the Goat.
Goat?
And what does GOAT mean? Yeah, GOAT stands for greatest of all time. And so, yeah, I knew that title, wait, talking to goats, what are you off the farmland? What are you talking about? No. It's actually, I'm a sports guy. I grew up playing a lot of team sports, and I think that's where I learned, competition and discipline and teamwork and focus and practice and never giving up, and going for the gold or the trophy and all that kind of good stuff. And it's from actually a sports broadcaster, Jim Gray, who's done a lot of, interviews with the Michael Jordans and the Mike Tysons and, Kobe Bryants and Michael Phelps and all these great, great accomplished athletes, whether they're in pros or Olympics. And I just get a huge amount of respect from people that whatever craft you're in, business, sport, or whatever your profession, maybe it's a ultimate classical musician or Broadway actor, awesome, respect. And so he interviews a lot of the GOATs, the greatest of all time, again, Tom Brady or, those kind of figures. And it's cool to get the insight because he asked their story. What motivated them? What's their why? And I get inspired by those type of, again, the greats that, even maybe an Oprah Winfrey or Walt Disney or whoever it is that's inspired you. They've usually come from some very humbling beginnings or some not so great financial situations. But you know what? They had something inside them, their DNA, that drives them to be the best of the best. And so that's what I speak a lot on and train on in my own practice is peak performance, mindset, and again, body and business is what I love to talk about. So yeah, that book kind of embodies all of the above.
I'm definitely going to have to check that out. I love that. That is very, very cool. All right. The first A in Badass is advice. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received besides mold is gold?
Well, again, great question, Jen. I love being on this podcast. Great. Again, I appreciate the invitation. And some great advice I got as I was a young entrepreneur, again, in my early days, just trying to break out of the job. I wanted to retire early. I heard that you got to work 40 years for a company and maybe get a retirement. And wow, that just didn't sound super sexy to me. So that's why I always had a side hustle. And I remember getting started in sales. And I was always just getting ready. And my mentor at the time, he called it saddling up. He goes, man, you got your office ready, you got your phone ready, you got your outfit ready, you got everything ready, Jeff. You're good at getting ready. He goes, that's good for saddling up. He goes, but are you ever going to get on the horse and make some calls? Are you ever going to get on the horse and go view some houses? Are you ever going to get on the horse and start making some offers? Enough saddling up already, Jeff. It's time to take some freaking action. And I was like, verbally slapped upside the head, like, you are right. And I was like, I needed that push to get into action mode. So that's some of the great advice I was told early on.
I love that. That's awesome. Saddling up. All right. The D in Badass is drive. What drives you to be successful?
You know what? At this stage of the game, Jen, I just turned the big 5-0 last year, and I still feel 30. So, yeah, this energy is raw and real. All I had was orange juice and a little oatmeal this morning. I'm not on any kind of Red Bull or high-caffeinated stuff. But what drives me is this lifestyle. I was born and raised in the Chicagoland, and I shoveled a lot of driveways and my properties. I didn't outsource. I didn't learn that till later on until, Kiyosaki and E-Myth came along on how to really outsource. So every time I'd shovel driveways, I'd say, moving to Florida or Arizona or moving to California, And so, yeah, I went through that transition as I was turning 40. And it was, quote unquote, living the dream. Semi-retiring by that age was always my goal when I was hustling in my 20s and 30s and kind of made that dream happen. And been fortunate enough to continue on. And I just am very grateful and I appreciate and count my blessings every single day that I live in this beautiful San Diego climate. But I work really darn hard, lighting the candles at both ends. And now I'm all about working smarter than harder and giving back. So, yeah, that's what drives me to keep on just, passing on the knowledge or experience. Because I remember in my early days when I was a newer entrepreneur investor, there wasn't really a lot of access to seasoned mentors, nor were they willing to divulge their quote-unquote secrets. And so, yeah, I look forward to all my coaching calls or speaking events that I get invited to. And I'm just honored to pass the torch, per se, of whatever kind of experience I could download into them.
And you are so good at giving back and how you express things. And I hear from students what a great job you do at them. So I know you are awesome at that. And I appreciate everything that you are giving back as a coach too, because this is my first time doing some major coaching and I get to learn from experts like you. So you have made a difference in my life too. So I appreciate that very much. The second A in Badass is aspiration. I'm a big goal setter. So what are some goals you are currently working on?
Yeah, great question again. And you're welcome, Jen. That's so nice of you to say. I really appreciate recognizing it. And I receive it. Awesome. And likewise, right back at you. I hear so much cool feedback from your clients and students, and even when we're on group webinars, you always bring a great fun flair to the equation because it's having balance. I work hard, so you hear the whole work hard, play hard, and yeah, I'm in alignment with that because I like this sport called golf now. I've played a lot of sports, but I can play that one almost till I die. And I like getting outside, especially after COVID. It's usually beautiful out there in that scenery. So back to goals. Yeah, it's a time-consuming sport. To be any good at golf, you got to spend 4 hours on it. And I don't get to practice anymore as much as I used to, but I still enjoy getting out. But the bottom line you just bring up about is goal setting. And I've been doing it for 20 plus years. And the couple years that I did not set goals were some of my lowest earning income years out there. And so it taught me those aha lessons. So yeah, I'm very, very, a stickler on goals. I have all my students setting goals, goals. And I use SMART acronym. It's very easy, specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, timetable. Got to have a deadline, create urgency, be accountable, have accountability partner. I have accountability partners. There's no doubt about it. And so, yeah, that all, it's very motivating, inspiring. And I just moved into a downtown office, which was one of my goals, to have a great location, to set up some incredible masterminds and events that are coming up. Just launched a new website for my personal brand and private coaching business and speaking business. I'm super excited about that. Now that, again, we're breaking out of COVID, live events are happening. I'm getting a lot of invitations to do speaking stuff because a lot of speakers are semi-retired. They don't want to go back out on the road, so they want to stay home with the kids. And I'm like, I miss live audiences, so I can't wait. I look forward to that in the second half of the year, that's for sure.
Well, that's wonderful. The first S in badass is systems. What are some systems you have in place that help you achieve success?
Well, Jen, right away, the first thing that comes to mind is time management.
Yep.
And a system that, again, usually coaching call number 2 for me, or 3, depending on the client, where they're at in their business. We got to talk about time management because it's the number one hot topic that I've talked about and even done weekend workshops or little VIP retreats where I'll do breakouts on time management. And then a lot of the time the clients have a choice to which breakout they want to go to. And I say, well, who wants to get 9 out of 10 things done by 12 noon and go golfing or surfing at 3 o'clock guilt-free? And usually a lot of people come to my little breakout or whatever the speech dynamic is, and it's because I've learned over the years some of the top 3 or 4 tips that are going to transform the time management principles and how to apply them. And when you run 1 or 2 businesses and have a job, whether it's part-time or full-time, you better be a master at time management because the bottom line is we all have the same amount of time every single day, every single week. But how do some people get more done than others that struggle? And so, yeah, I love to give the keys to that. Maybe we'll do that on a whole nother podcast.
I would love it.
I think that is a key system that I've learned to really discipline myself so I can maximize what I call income producing activities. And then you're able to go do whatever you do on a personal level.
Awesome. And I'm going to jump back to the SMART goals for a second because I incorporate my SMART goals into my daily schedule, into my weekly schedule, into my monthly schedule. So I have certain points that I want to hit. If I want to do 12 rehabs, I know I have to write 4 offers a month to get 1 or 2 projects. So it's just breaking those down, as Rye Guy likes to call it, chunking them down. But that's so important in that time management to make sure that you schedule that in there. So you have those SMART goals in your forefront all the time. So I love that you brought up 2 of my favorite things there. So the last S in badass, Mr. Badass, is success. What does success mean to Jeff Fallon?
Wow, this is a whole other podcast again, but I'll try and compartmentalize and summarize that one. Success nowadays is just quality of life and, having some choices. Worked really hard to be able to do that from a financial standpoint. And like I mentioned earlier, giving back, whether it's to charities with your time or resources, and having options. Being able to go on a certain vacation when and where you want. That's a great thing that, success. But other than monetarily, family, your friends, quality time. In this COVID thing, even before that, I lost my dad to cancer back when he was only 56 years old back in 2004. I'm 33 years old, and now I'm like, wow, I had 30 years or so with my dad. So time is precious. And we don't have a whole heck of a lot of time. So make it count and really, quote unquote, show up for your loved ones or your company. And yeah, give everything you got, show up at that 10 out of 10 level. And that's where, again, daily rituals really help contribute to that on a level of every day. What do you do once you wake up to where before you get into your, work chair or office? And how are you showing up? And how do you talk to yourself? What's happening when you are quiet time? Are you speaking life into yourself, or is there some kind of negative Nancy that's always kind of in the back of your head? So I bring that up because, man, your mindset is so important to where what is success? And it's different for so many different people. And I try and keep it simple nowadays because before, man, I was hustling and lighting the candle at 2, 3 ends. And I've learned to really take a step back and breathe and enjoy and be grateful for what you really have here. And you know what? I'm breathing air. I live in the USA. It's beautiful. And so I've got my fingers and toes and all that. And so I could make it real simple or get, complicated on it. But yeah, I mean, that's a lot of answers to a question that's a tough one to answer what success is. I have a hashtag or two to where I have hashtag live to give and I share because I care. And I don't know if that comes from, again, being raised by a nurse where you really live with your heart on your sleeve. But I love connecting with people that are in the same type of, dynamic and mindset where there's some people out there that do incredible things for the planet or, their communities or their families. And that inspires me, man. I'm just like, wow, that is admirable. And so success, again, it's a tough one to answer, but hopefully I did a decent job at that for me personally and then overall in the grand scheme of this world and life we all live in,
Well, your energy is contagious. And I do have to say, while we're recording this, I don't know if the listeners can hear a little crackle a little bit, but I have Hurricane Elsa, it's actually tropical storm right now, going through Raleigh as we're recording this. And it's so gray outside. And when we started, Jeff, you have like I said, your energy is contagious. You have just brightened my whole office here with your smile, with your everything that you're saying. So I appreciate you very much. And I know the listeners are feeling the same. So what's the best way our listeners can find you?
Oh, great question. Yeah, I'll tell you what. I'm on Facebook. My business page is my full name, Jeffrey, Jeffrey, Fallon, F like in Frank, Allon. And that's my website too, my full name, jeffreyfallon.com. You could also find me at urceo.com because we all are the CEO of your life, your future, your legacy, et cetera, et cetera. So spelled out just like how it sounds, youareceo.com. I'm on Instagram at Positive Coach 24/7. So give me a follow. I'll follow you back. And yeah, that's the best way to follow me right there.
Well, thank you so much, Jeff. And that is all. Thank you for listening. We will catch you on the next episode. Now go out there.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Now go out there and share your badassery. And don't forget, make it a great day. Take care. Bye-bye. Whoop, whoop.
Thank you for listening to RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. If you need more badassery, you can follow Jen Josie by visiting therealjenjosie.com or become a member of RAIN by registering on rainmastermind.com.